My parents insisted I cancel my engagement party so they could celebrate my brother's college graduation on the same day, sparking family drama. So I, 28, male, have a younger brother, Leon, 26, male, who just recently graduated from college, community college, I might add. And I got engaged to my high school sweetheart, Nina, 28, female, around the same time. We have been together for 10 years, and it was about time that we made this official. So I proposed to her 2 weeks ago and decided to send out invitations to a party that we were hosting at our house in honor of our engagement last weekend. The party was held last night, 5 days after the invitations were sent out, and the drama around all of this has been so crazy and weird, I don't even know how to make sense of it. It all started after I sent the invitation to my immediate family, my parents, and my brother, who called me up and said that I had to cancel this event. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why they would ask me to do such a thing. And when I told them that I wasn't going to do so, they told me that they had decided they were throwing my brother a party to celebrate his graduation. And of course, it just happened to be on the same day as my engagement party. They hadn't sent out the invitations, but they were planning on doing so the same evening that I sent out mine. So now they claimed that at least one of us needed to back off and let the other celebrate their important event. We shared a family, and having 2 events on the same day would lead to a lot of conflict, and we didn't want that. All the cards are on the table. I'm not particularly close with my family. I get along well with the rest of my relatives, but not my parents or Leon. And that was why they were not aware of the fact that I was throwing an engagement party on the same day as they were planning on throwing a graduation party. We do speak to each other on rare occasions, like we had congratulated each other when I found out that he had graduated. And they congratulated me when they found out about my engagement. We wished each other on birthdays and holidays, but that's about it. So when they told me that they wanted me to cancel my engagement party for their day, it was very clear in my head what I wanted to do, and instantly I said no. I don't mean to undermine Leon, but I think his graduating from community college at 26 is not as big of a deal as me getting engaged to Nina, the love of my life, whom I have been with for the past 10 years. And to be honest, at this point, I don't even care if I'm undermining him. But I made it very clear to my parents that I was not going to cancel my event, because I'd already sent people the invitation, and if they wished to, they could postpone their thing since they hadn't yet sent out the invitations. I thought it was a pretty reasonable suggestion, but my parents were not happy about it, and neither was Leon. It was not surprising that they were acting this way, because my brother has always been the golden child growing up, and every little thing that he needed was celebrated. For instance, I remember feeling this way the first time when I was just 7 years old, because I realized that on my 5th birthday, the celebration had been pretty subdued since my parents believed that I wouldn't even remember this party when I grew up. So it had just been my parents, a couple of their friends, and just a handful of my neighborhood friends, whereas when my brother turned 5, they went all out and literally rented out a venue so that they could have a themed party for him. When I graduated middle school, all I got was a pat on the back and congratulations. And when Leon graduated middle school, there was yet another party to celebrate it. It was the same when I graduated high school, then when I started college, and also when I graduated college. I didn't get anything more than a few words of encouragement, but after middle school, I had kind of figured out that they liked Leon a lot better than they liked me. So as soon as I graduated high school and moved out for college, I started distancing myself from them. I did not cut them off completely because they were still paying for my expenses in college, but as soon as I got a job, I kind of just stopped speaking to them. I was civil to them whenever I would see them, but didn't keep in touch, and neither did they expect me to. Neither of us had any complaints about the situation, and we had adapted however we thought was appropriate. I never had a good relationship with Leon either, since while we were growing up, we were always either fighting or taking digs at each other, and by the time we were in high school, we had decided that we were better off canceling. Honestly, he's very different from me, and it's not the good kind of different. Because of the way that my parents have treated him right from his childhood, he has been spoiled, entitled, and pretty bratty, and I think this is something that everyone who knows our family would agree upon, that he's not exactly the easiest person to be around. But my parents never seem to have a problem with anything that he does, even though he was quite the troublemaker in high school and almost got expelled on a number of occasions. They didn't even say anything when he told them that he did not want to go to college, that he wanted to join a startup that a couple of his friends had started with a revolutionary idea. Graphic printed t-shirts for teens and youngsters. How thrilling. Anyway, obviously that did not go well, and after it flopped, he ended up wasting our parents' investment money, which he also got a free pass for, just by the way. He decided that he wanted to go to college, but his grades were not good enough for that, and he had also taken quite a few gap years, so he had to stick to community college and get a degree in business. And now, my parents wanted me to cancel my engagement party so that they could celebrate his graduation. I think anybody in my place would have done the same thing, and there was nothing heartless about what I was doing. On the phone, my parents started acting like I was the worst person on the planet for deciding not to cancel my party. They said that they had always known that I was against my brother, but this was just too much. I tried to reason with them because I did not want any drama before my engagement party, but there was just no talking to them. So eventually I got frustrated, and I told them that they were free to have their party on the same day as me, but I was not making any changes to accommodate them or Leon, and then I hung up and I blocked them. I did not get a chance to speak to Leon about any of this, and neither did he bother to reach out to me anyway. For the next 4 days after we had that argument, I did not hear from them, but I did get to know from a bunch of my relatives that they had also received invitations to Leon's graduation party that was being held on the same day as my engagement party, and they were confused about what to do. I really did not want to drag anybody into the drama that was going on between my family, so I refrained from saying anything for the first 2 days. I told them that this was their choice, and I respected that, so my relatives were free to attend whichever event they wanted to, and I wouldn't mind. Obviously, deep down, I would be really hurt if fewer people showed up for my party, but I couldn't force them into doing anything. However, 3 days ago, I found out that my parents were taking the exact opposite approach. My cousin told me that my parents had apparently been telling everyone that they should not be attending my engagement party since I had been nothing but horrible to them, and apparently they had accused me of throwing my engagement party on the same day that they had decided to throw my brother a graduation party on purpose. They claimed that they had been throwing around this idea for a couple of weeks now, but after they discussed it with me, I decided to send out invitations on the same day for my party and completely blindsided them. They were trying really hard to badmouth me, and that's when I decided that if they were going to do this, then two could play this game. Thankfully, I did not need to come up with such lies in order to make them look bad. I just told everybody the truth. I sent out a message to everybody who had been invited to the party, saying that I knew that my parents had probably been trying to badmouth me and telling people a very distorted version of things. So, I told them my version of things, which was the truth, and explained what we had been talking about on the phone call the other day. I added that right from my childhood, I have had to deal with the fact that Leon always got celebrated no matter what he did, and I had been fine with it so far, but now it was not fair of my parents to expect me to postpone the celebration of my own milestones just to accommodate them and their golden child. So now, if any of my relatives still wanted to believe them over me, they were free to do so, but then I would really appreciate it if they did not bother to keep in touch with me after that. It was a very clear-cut and to-the-point message, and then I was kind of scared about what the response to that would be. But most of my relatives just texted me back to let me know that they could understand where I was coming from, and that they were on my side because they witnessed firsthand the kind of treatment that I had received from my parents right from when I was a child. And my family members who were in the same generation as I was, like a couple of my cousins and a few of my uncles and aunts who were on the younger side, also reassured me that they were going to be attending my thing. So Nina and I were pretty happy since most of them had RSVP'd, and last night we had a total blast at the party. To my surprise, pretty much everyone who had been invited had shown up, and I don't even think it had been a dilemma for any of them. People told me that when they started receiving messages from my parents, they knew that there was something off about what they were saying and refused to believe that I would do something as underhanded as what they were accusing me of. I was really not the kind of person to intentionally throw a party on the same day as my brother just to steal his limelight, and I was glad that people knew that. Besides, a lot of people told me that they were glad that I was standing my ground and not giving in to my parents' demands, since I was right about how unfairly I had been treated all my childhood. So not only did I get to celebrate my engagement with my friends and family, But I also got to know that most people in my family were on the same page as me when it came to my parents and my brother. Overall, the party was a huge success, and I was very happy, until I woke up this morning. As soon as I woke up, I received a visit from the last people I wanted to see, my parents and Leon. When they started ringing the doorbell, I really had no intention of letting them in, and I told them to go away. But my dad said that they were here to speak to me, and they would not be going anywhere until they had had a discussion with me. I wanted to call the cops, but Nina convinced me to just speak to them for once and end this matter once and for all. So I decided to let them in, and as soon as they had entered, my parents started hurling accusations at me. I was quite taken aback and pretty disoriented since I had just woken up a couple of minutes before that, but they were already accusing me of being incredibly jealous of Leon, which is why I had decided to do such a thing. They disclosed that they barely had anybody show up at their party, and even the ones who had made an appearance left within just a couple of minutes after making some polite small talk so that they could attend my party. They said that they knew about the message that I had sent to our relatives, and I defended myself by saying I did not want to do something like that initially, but they had forced my hand by trying to badmouth me and lying about me. Anyway, it seems like my words were not even reaching their ears because they were so loud with their accusations. They believed that I was doing all of this just because I was jealous of Leon, and I wanted to hog the limelight all the time, and they said that I was tearing the family apart. After some time, I guess Nina realized that there was no point in trying to have a discussion with them because they were clearly not civilized enough for that, and she intervened and said that she was going to call the cops if they did not leave that very instant. After that, they started leaving, but they were still calling me a lot of derogatory names, and Leon even slammed the door of our house so hard when he shut it while he was leaving that even the windows rattled for a good few seconds. I had half a mind to call him back and let him have it, but I decided to let it go. I was pretty pissed, and so was Nina, but then, an hour after they left, we received a message from an unknown number, probably a friend or someone's number that they were using because we had blocked all of them, and we received a message that said that, all things said and done, we were still family, and they were really disappointed that I had chosen to have my engagement party on the same day as Leon's party. Since this was the one thing that I could have let him have, they said that he was already graduating college at 26, which was something that he was embarrassed of, and they were just trying to put a positive spin on it. On top of that, his business had also recently failed just a couple of years ago, so it was not like he had much cause to celebrate, and they were just trying to cheer him up. But I never even bothered to think about it like that, so they said that they were very disappointed, and they had expected me to be more mature about this. They also apologized for trying to badmouth me, but said that they had no other choice because they really wanted this party to be a success. Ever since I received that message, I've been really confused. On one hand, I know that this is classic manipulation, but on the other hand, what if they are really sorry? Nina is kind of conflicted as well, so we are here. So, Aida for having my engagement party on the same day as my brother's graduation party? Edit. So, some of you seem to have a problem with the fact that my relatives did not step up for me and try to do something when they had always known that my parents did not treat my brother and me equally. In their defense, I would just like to say that they did all that they could. They always tried to be there for me and were always nice and kind to me. I'm pretty sure that a few of them had even tried to speak to my parents to make them realize that what they were doing and the way they were treating me and Leon so differently was not fair to either of us, but my parents did not care. And honestly, what more could they have done? It's not like it was a crime bad enough to warrant demanding custody of me. That would have just been absurd, and I don't think anybody wanted to do that either since they also have their lives and their families to think about. Besides, I was doing just fine. I generally stopped having expectations from my parents after a certain point, so I do not mind that they put my brother up on a pedestal and did not seem to care much about me. As long as everything was paid for, I didn't care. I'm on good terms with the rest of my family, and I don't mind the fact that most of them are on good terms with my parents and my brother as well. I haven't made them choose. I had just said that if they chose not to attend my party, then we would have had a problem. But honestly, all of them did, and I don't mind anymore if they continue to be on good terms with my parents and Leon. And I had made that very clear at the party as well. Anyway, most of you were questioning why I had even bothered to keep in touch with the rest of my family, and yet this is why. I just don't think that it's that deep. This is between my parents, my brother, and I, not them, and I don't want to drag them into this for no reason. Update 1. So, a couple of days have passed, and after reading most of the comments on my original post, I decided that I had nothing to apologize for. I kept my parents and Leon blocked. I also blocked the number that they had texted me from earlier after messaging them that I did not feel like speaking to them anymore, and I would really appreciate it if they stayed away from me from now on. And for the last 3 days, I did not hear from them, and neither did any of my relatives have anything to say. Today, however, was pretty different, since right before Nina and I were about to leave for work, my mother paid us a visit. It was just her this time. My dad and Leon were not with her, and she is usually a lot quieter than them. So I decided to let her in because I thought that we could finally have a civilized discussion like grown-up adults instead of having a shouting match. Once she was inside, she told me that she was there to talk to both of us, so Nina needed to be a part of the conversation as well. So we sat together, and then she started off by saying that she really regretted whatever had happened recently, and she wanted to apologize on behalf of all 3 of them. To be honest, I don't really count that apology, since if all 3 of them actually wanted to apologize, they should have shown up together and apologized. Just sending my mother and saying that they were sorry simply does not cut it. But I did not say anything about it, and then my mother went on to say that even though she knew that they had messed up, she was still pretty pissed off about one thing that had happened on their last visit. And then she said that she respected the fact that we had been together for 10 years and considered Nina like her own daughter. But then last time that they had visited, she had threatened to call the cops on my father. And now she believed that they were owed an apology for that, because no matter what, this was between family, and she wasn't family just yet. My mother said that Nina had been screaming at my dad's face, threatening to call the police, and had even said that he needed to get out of our house right then, and that had been incredibly disrespectful. So now, since they were ready to apologize for what they had done, she expected the 2 of us to apologize as well, because we had also treated them with no respect. Nina because she had yelled at my parents, and I because I had allowed it, and had just stood by silently watching while my fiancé shouted at my parents. For a second, neither of us knew what to say, but then I got really annoyed by what was being said, and I told my mother that while I appreciated the gesture that she had made by showing up and apologizing on my family's behalf, it was completely unnecessary. I had really believed that this time, since it was just my mom, she would at least see sense and try to make things right. But even now, they could not let go of their massive ego. I told her straight to her face that she had just wasted half an hour of our time and that we did not need a lecture on morals from her. I told her that Nina was perfectly well within her rights to scream at whoever she wanted to because they were the ones who had shown up at our house uninvited, even though we had opened the door because we had genuinely believed that we could have a discussion with them and clear the air. They had proved us wrong by acting like psychotic people and screaming in our faces and hurling accusations at me as soon as the door was opened to them. And more importantly, it did not matter to me if they considered Nina family or not. But for me, she was my family, even more so than them, if I'm being honest. So in my opinion, neither of us owed them any apology, and neither did I want one from them at this point. I told my mother that now, since she had said whatever she had come to say and we had heard her out, we were done and she needed to leave. But she refused to get up and said that she was not going to accept this kind of behavior from me. It genuinely started getting a little exasperating, and I ended up telling my mother that I honestly did not care what kind of behavior she was going to accept from me because I was not even interested in interacting with my family anymore. After I had graduated from college, I had distanced myself from them anyway. And now, after everything that had happened, I simply did not want to speak to them ever again. So I was fine with it if she did not like this kind of behavior. She did not have to put up with me because I wanted her out of my life, and the same went for my dad and my brother. So we argued for a bit, and then she told me that now, since I had made it so clear that I did not want them in my life, they were leaving, and she was going to make sure that I never got to speak to them ever again. I told her I was fine with that, and then she finally left. We ended up getting late for work by a lot, but at least I'm going to count on this interaction to put an end to all of this, because frankly, I'm getting sick of my family. The next time any of them show up at my house, I'm simply calling the cops. That's it. Update 2. Hey, so it's been 3 weeks since my last update, and Nina and I had really expected this whole thing to have blown over by now, but last night my parents decided to pay Nina's parents a visit. Like I said, we have been together for 10 years, so even our families know each other pretty well, and Nina's parents live just a couple of blocks away from mine, so they showed up at their house at 10 p.m. to talk to them about our children and their horrible behavior. At first, Nina's parents did not know what to do because they knew about our recent fights, but eventually, they let them in because they did not want to be rude. Anyway, as soon as my parents were in and speaking to Nina's parents, they started lamenting about how they didn't even know where they had gone wrong with raising me, and they were so upset that I turned out this way, whereas Leon was the epitome of what a good son should be. They started talking about how he was still choosing to live with them because he did not want to abandon them in their old age. Yeah, as if that's the real reason, and not because he doesn't have the money to live by himself. And my parents allow him to live rent-free and don't even expect him to pay for any of the other expenses or bills. Anyway, for a couple of minutes, they went on and on about how great Leon was and how I was nothing but a disappointment. By then, Nina's parents had figured out that the two of them were probably a little tipsy. Then they started talking about Nina and the way she had apparently insulted them the last time that they had seen her and told her. Parents that they did not mean to be rude, but they had never expected Nina to behave this way with them, so they were quite taken aback since she had always been a shy, quiet girl. But now, since she had the ring on her finger, she had started showing her true colors already. But apparently, they were there because they had a plan in mind. Soon enough, they would be able to get us to fall in line and respect our parents more. The plan that they had come up with was a brilliant one. They had apparently decided that neither they nor Nina's parents were going to agree to pay for our wedding, and then we would be left with no other option but to apologize for our behavior and try to be better children to them. I don't understand why they would drag Nina's parents into any of this, because we have always had a good relationship with them because they are, what's the word? Oh yes, normal, unlike my parents, who are as deranged as they come. Nina's parents called us up after my parents had left and filled us in on whatever had happened, and I really wanted to be mad at them. But the whole thing was so weird that all of us ended up having a good laugh over it. I'm really glad that she and her parents did not take offense at my parents' behavior, because otherwise I might have been in trouble, and once again, I would have to apologize for my parents' behavior. But my future in-laws are actually pretty chill, and told me that I did not need to worry about any of this. They had known my parents for a long time. They knew that there was something wrong with both of them, so they did not mind, and the next time they showed up, they would just not let them in. Anyway, I'm glad that we were able to sort that out without any trouble. I just hope that after they don't receive any response from Nina's parents, they get the hint and don't bother them again. Still, just for good measure, I'm going to unblock them and tell them not to bother anybody else in the family, or I would be forced to take legal action against them. I don't know what I would do, but I'm pretty sure that even if I just bluff about it, they will be intimidated, and maybe that will make them back off. And that's the plan for now. Let's see if they try to do anything funny or not. Update 3. Hey, so it's been close to a year since I last posted, and for almost a year, I have been in no contact with my parents and my brother. And I've got to say, it's been the best year of my life. Also, 2 months back, Nina and I finally got married, and everybody whom I loved attended the wedding. We had a fantastic time, and a couple of weeks back we finally got back from our honeymoon. My parents did not wish me well, and neither did Leon, and part of me is glad because otherwise I would have to interact with them. Right now, I'm just enjoying marital life, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her. As long as she's by my side, I'm not really worried about anything.